HarperCollins presents On Democracies and Death Cults, Israel, Hamas, and the Future of the West, by Douglas Murray. Read by Douglas Murray.
Someone might ask, why write about this? Why remember all that? It is the writer's duty to tell this terrible truth, and it is the civilian duty of the reader to learn it. Vasily Grossman. Introduction. Sometimes a flare goes up, and you get to see exactly where everyone is standing. The morning of October 7th, 2023, was just such a moment. That morning, air raid sirens went off all across Israel. This was no unusual thing in itself, certainly not in the south of the country, that had for 17 years been within rocket range of Hamas, nor in the north of the country, into which Hezbollah had fired rockets since the 1980s. But in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, the sirens sounded too. People woke up that Saturday morning to the realization that something very unusual was happening. Soon, social media and various messaging platforms began blowing up with people relating the unimaginable. Reports from people in the south suggested that there had been a major terrorist breach from Gaza into Israel. This strip of land had been dominated by the terrorist group Hamas almost immediately after Israel withdrew from the territory in 2005. There had been terrorist incursions over the years since, including the cross-border raid and kidnap of the young soldier Gilad Shalit in 2006. But here were reports of hundreds, perhaps thousands of terrorists streaming through the communities of southern Israel. The fighting seemed to be everywhere. As well as entering the communities called kibbutz in the south, they had also entered major towns and were attacking the young people who had been dancing at the Nova Festival, a rave party that had been arranged on the eve of the Jewish festival of Simchat Torah. The fact that it was the Sabbath and a major religious festival meant that many religious people were off their phones that morning. Many Jews do not use electronic devices on the holy day. But for everyone who was on their phones, they were soon seeing the horror in real time. Across the south of Israel, first responders rushed to the scene and found sights of butchery and chaos. The volunteer group United Hatzalah has volunteers all across Israel. Their citizen members are trained to respond to road crashes and other emergencies. Members of the public call in, and a volunteer in the area will get there as soon as possible. That morning, as the head of the group would later tell me in their control room in Jerusalem, their situation screens started to light up with incidents. Indicating the huge map in their control room, Ellie Beer told me that 30 years of incidents all combined didn't add up to an hour of what happened that morning. One of the many volunteers from Hatzalah got an alert and thought he was going to the scene of an accident. He spotted a car on the roadside, saw some dead bodies and slowed down. But something was not right. The people by the car were dressed in the uniforms of Israeli soldiers. They started shooting at him. Incidents like this caused utter confusion on top of the terror. Why would they be shooting at me, was his first thought. But some of the Hamas terrorists had come into the country wearing versions of the uniforms of Israeli soldiers. Others had taken them off the bodies of the dead in the military bases Hamas had already overwhelmed. Within hours, the sheer scale of the assault started to become apparent. The terrorists had come into Israel not just by land vehicles and on foot, but by boat and on hand gliders, perhaps as many as 6,000 in total. Wherever they arrived, they brought
Sample complete. Ready to continue?